I am going to read through the two verses that we're going to discuss, which is 53.1 and 53.4. Vahishta ishtish saravi zaratushrahe sapita mahya yezi hawi daut ayapta ashad hacha ahuru mazdo yoi vispai avankim yaejo hoi daen sashikancha Dainio Vankuyo Osta Shiutanocha. This is the verse 1, and on verse 4 we have Temzi ve Seperdauni Varani Ya Fazarui Vaidot Ye Teicho Vosteriebiu Acho Chavetu Ashoni Ashwabiu Mananko Vankeush Chavanut Hankeush Mem Baidush Mazdo Dadot Ahuru Dainoi Vankoi Yaui Vispai. And the translations will go through the first one, which will be the best wishes of mine, Zarathustra Sibitama, has been fulfilled, because the wise God has, on account of my righteousness, granted me blessing, both mental and material, and a good life forever. Those who hurt me have also learned the words and deeds of the good conscience. That's Dr. Jafari, Khosrow Khazai. Now my highest aspirations, Zarathustra Spitama, have been accomplished, since on the basis of my good thoughts, good words, and good deeds, and their harmony with righteousness, Ahura Mazda has granted me for eternity good and enhancing life. The people, even those who feel animosity towards me, have accepted his immortal and precious doctrine and adopted it in their lives. And DJ Irani, the highest aspirations of Zarathustra Spitama attain fruition, O Mazda, when thou dost grant him for his righteousness blissful existence, enduring for all times, when all at last turn to him to accept and practice the principle of the good religion. I will jump to the translation of verse 4. This is Puruchista speaking to her father. She replies, him I shall emulate and choose an act which will be an honor for the father, the husband, the settler, and the family. As a righteous woman among the righteous people, mine be the glorious union of good mind. May the wise God grant it for the good conscience for all times. Then we have Khosrow Khazai, Puruchista shall choose such a person and shall love him. Therefore, with honor among the citizens, fellow workers, family, father, and husband, in the radiance of good thoughts, I shall always be the follower of Mazda's path. And DJ Irani, verily have I, as a righteous one, chosen him, and shall honor father, husband, and be righteous to nobles and peasants. For righteousness, let our heritage be the radiance of good mind. May Mazda Ahura grant the blessing of the good faith for all times. I'll go back to the pondering point and the summary substance of what this is Dr. Jafari's, what his conclusion is from that first verse, where he's expressing his joy at the success of his mission. It is on account of his earnest and righteous way of promoting his divine mission. that he finds his best wishes, the success of well establishing the good religion come true. He earnestly ascribes his success to divine guidance. He feels happy and content in mind and body. He enjoys a good life forever. He is alive. His very words are heard. He sees that those who rose against him, hurt him, made him leave his relatives and hometown, placed obstacles in his way to the Vishtaspa's court, intrigued against him, have now learned the truth. They too have converted to the good religion. And on the last one, Puruchista assures her father that she will choose and emulate the right person with whom her marriage will prove to be an honor to her father, her husband, and other family members, and all the neighbors around in the settlement. She vows to serve as a righteous woman among righteous people. She will always be using her good mind, and for that she prays to adhere and enjoy the good religion for all the time she lives. Okay, with that, I'm going to turn this over to Mitra,
who has to see everyone.
who has to see everyone.
I cannot talk if I don't see your beautiful faces. I'm so sorry.
So that means I'm going to have to, unfortunately, minimize the PowerPoint so she can see you. So I figure out how to do it. To start, Mitra. I'll figure it out.
Hi, Jasmine. Hi, Tim. Those that we haven't seen. So it's so hard to have good health. She's still figuring it out. So I can see just few of you. Hopefully at the end of this discussion, I'll be seeing all of you. The reason that we picked two different verses, they have nothing to do with each other, but they do. So it's just a different thing that we're doing this time. We are just combining two different messages and see what is the relevance and why is it so beautiful that in the Gathas, eventually everything connects and everything will tell us the same message and we can use it in everyday life. When we talked before, we talked about Puchista, Zarathustra's daughter, youngest daughter, and the way that she picked her husband herself. And like you just saw, it says, I shall choose a husband. Just remember that some of you guys are history buffs. You just love to know all these nitty-gritty events that happen with history and how they come to be. 4,000 years ago, the fact that a woman is choosing her own husband, compared to right now in many, many cultures, even 50 years ago in Iran, and still in India, in China, all these pre-arranged marriages, that the woman has no right, the woman doesn't even see the husband. This is happening every day, somewhere on this universe, that the woman is given a husband, she has no choice. It's picked for her, and she cannot complain, she cannot have an opinion, and they just get married. And we're talking about 4,000 years ago, another woman, who says, I shall choose my husband. So that tells you how important it is to believe that you have freedom of choice. And that is a message that everyday life should bring it back to us, that, it is our choice. We have taken this path. It makes sense to us. Zarathustra's message, the Gathas, everything in it is so logical. It is so relevant to good living. It is always the best if you choose your own path, to choose your own everything in life, knowing what you're doing. A lot of people make wrong choices. That is part of this living. But this is just a reminder of how choices come to be and how choices affect our lives. And like you see here on the translations and the pondering message, if you make the right choice, happiness would follow. If you make the right choice, righteousness is part of it, happiness is part of it, success is part of it, and good living. In one of these translations on 53.1, if you guys can see it, Zarathustra is talking about, thank you, Ahura Mazda, thank you, whatever, the creator, because he is happy, he has found a good life forever in material and mental. And like, if you know a lot of cultures, a lot of religions, a lot of philosophies, a lot of other cultures and traditions, they tell you that material doesn't matter. A lot of religions promise you that this life doesn't matter. Focus on afterlife. Focus on the happiness that you shall have if you do whatever you have to do on this earth, but not in this philosophy. So you and I, whoever is walking this path, we should know that heaven and hell is right here, right now, what we create. And it has to be a balance between material and mental, but both of them. You cannot be poor, not having any money, not having any financial, upbringing status to support your good life and become happy. That's not going to happen. So for anybody who says that I'm a very religious person and I'm righteous, but I don't need money, that is not a fact. That is not finding Ashok. We have to admit to the fact that we have to be well off to the point that happiness follows because of the way that we have chosen our life. So yes, it has to be mental and material. Zarathustra has never said all mental, all spirits, just be spiritual, just do the right thing because it's the right thing. You have to achieve a balance between material and mental well-being. So it's not frowned upon for somebody to become rich. It's frowned upon the way you do it. It's frowned upon not picking the righteous way of achieving wealth. But it's, it is part of the game. That was 53.1. And I would like you guys to just chime in and let me know if you agree with that. If you think that, no, you have to be spiritual, Zarathustra was like this, and the message was like that, and the understanding that you have from the Gathas, because that's what I get from this verse, that, yeah, I have to focus on having wealth and health and good mental status and be all of it, they are equally important. So anybody would like to share? Caleb, go first.
Yeah, no, I think you're absolutely right about that idea of kind of mental and material. It's also interesting because he's quoting his own words at the very beginning of Yasna 28 or Song 1, where he says, grant me the blessings, both material and mental. I think it's cool, and I think it's very, very accurate, as well as how that's kind of connected to the good conscience, and that the people that are acting through truth or through the order of existence, asha, however you want to describe that, would receive blessings or attainments, however you want to take that word, simply because they are doing good, not because they're trying to get those. So that's kind of my take on it.
Yeah, very good. So it's not a crime to be rich and to be righteous. You can be both. Good for you if you can be both. So to try for a better life, a more, lavish life, that's fine. If you're doing it in a righteous way, that's fine. It's good. It is kind of like promoted because we are human. That's what our body, our soul, our spirit, our conscience needs. So he's all for it. So we should be too. Ash, do you have any opinion on that? Everyday life.
I absolutely couldn't agree more. I believe that a lot of religions and a lot of institutions are telling us to reject material wealth, what even science would call today, scientific materialism, and head toward, having a balance of, the spiritual mental, emotional, even physical health, as well as materialistic well-being. I believe that, I believe in the mirror principle, such that, our outer reality is a reflection of our inner world. And so when we have material wealth, and as long as it's, done in an intentive kind of way, this is, this can be reflective and indicative of, how rich our emotional, mental, and spiritual inner world are. So thank you.
Absolutely, absolutely. Very well said. So thank you for that. Felix, would you like to express your opinion?
Yeah, I don't have much to say. I really liked the explanation and seeing the different translations. Just made me think about how when you talked about, money and also righteousness, how it seems like there's an overarching principle of doing good that's almost kind of a compass for action, because you can quickly get lost in like money, for example, and do things for money and money alone, or you could do something for a particular outcome. And it gets me thinking about just the idea of qualifying any human action in relationship to this idea of goodness. And I think of it as a compass for action. So it's not very clear what I have to say, but it got me thinking about this. And also, yeah, like the living here and hell and paradise. I think a lot of the discussion on the channel got me thinking around this. And I was actually writing to a friend this morning about, how the idea of heaven and hell doesn't make any sense. And it makes so much more sense to think that heaven and hell are here, and through our actions, we can carve a paradise for ourselves, or, suffering in hell. And once you sort of realize that, the whole idea of heaven and hell like just becomes so meaningless.
Yeah, it is obsolete. Thank you. Nilujan, your hand was up. Nilu, do you have time to?
No, I was just clapping, like agreeing with what was being said. Sorry.
Well, you can add to it if you would like to.
I would like to. I'm just at the moment, there's a lot
Okay.
happening with my 3 kids. Thank
That's
you so
fine.
much. Thank
That's
you.
okay. That's okay. Just listen on. Tim, would you like to share some opinion?
Can you hear me? I'm still trying to figure
Yes,
out
we
this
can hear
Zoom.
you.
Okay.
We can see you and hear you.
Yeah.
Yes.
No, I mean, I'm just absorbing a lot of what you're saying, and it makes sense. There's a lot of religions that actually point in this direction, but they take this vow of poverty a lot of times, and they're seeking happiness, wealth, riches, in a sense, but I think they're going about it all backwards. And I believe the heaven and hell are pretty much on earth too. If you can, sometimes you look at the starving kids in Africa that die by the hundreds every day. That's hell to them.
Correct.
People in China that can't open up their Bibles or they'll get put in prison. It's hell to them. And so a lot of this stuff, what I'm learning, it makes sense to me. I'm trying to absorb, what is the correct thinking here. So.
Yeah, well,
I
thank you for
appreciate you
sharing.
having me here, and I appreciate you and Fariba here every week so I can listen in. You guys are a wealth of information.
Well, we try. When you said, I always tell people heaven and hell, and we created it's right here. I remember a long, long time ago, I was in a party that there was one older lady. She's not with us anymore. She was 9 years old, and our kids were just running around. There were like 3, 4 of our kids, and they were just running around, just laughing and all that. And I just made a comment. I just said, I wish we were back in that age, because they have no stress. They're just so happy. They're just playing. And this 9-year-old woman, bless her soul, she said, no, they have stress. What are you talking about? They have plenty of stress. You just don't remember and you don't see it. Every time you tell them stop running, every time you tell them sit here, every time you tell them leave the room, you have to sleep, you have to brush your teeth. This is hell for them. And it was so eye-opening that at any moment in any position that we are, yeah, we can have a really, really hell of a time, or we can become so happy over something very non-significant. And when I talk about mental and material well-being, I'm never talking about being a billionaire or a millionaire. It is just having enough material power to live a happy life. And
Yes.
that is different for every person. We all know our limitations. I never want to be so rich that people look at me, or, you know, they say that she has everything. That is not what we're talking about. But to gain material power at any stage in your life, it's promoted. You have to have enough money to buy that medicine at the pharmacy that would cure your COVID, that would take care of that cough that is so annoying that makes your nights hell. Everything is in such a everyday life level with this philosophy. That's why if you cough all night, that's hell, because you're hurting, you can't breathe, you can't sleep. So it's as simple as that. And if you have the money to go to the pharmacy and buy that cough medication that is very expensive right now, so it makes it better. It's for your own well-being. So it's good to think about material possession as much as mental and spiritual outcome that you have in your life.
Yes.
Mark, would you like to share your opinion? If you're there. Hi, Mark. Okay, maybe later. Ben?
Hello, I am here. I apologize about that. I am currently in the car driving, so I can't.
That's fine.
I'm
That's
just listening right now.
That's okay. Focus on driving. That's the best thing to do right now. So let me see who else is left.
Jasmine,
Ari, are you there?
Arya.
Hi everyone. Yeah, I'm here. I think you covered most of the stuff. I'm a little confused though. Initially, we start talking about wealth, and then it turned into basically earning enough money to buy the necessity of life. I mean, those are two completely different things. But having said that,
yeah, because
if I wanted to put it in my words, I think as long as you earn your wealth through honest means, not by lying, cheating, or stealing, that's completely okay. And also we need people with wealth to help fight the evil, because evil usually does all the things I just mentioned to earn wealth, and you can't combat those individuals by being poor. So there's going to be a balance between the two. Over.
Okay, well, thank you. We haven't spoken about evil yet. So in this philosophy, it's not in any of these verses, but just because you brought it up, evil is the product of our mind in this philosophy. Zarathustra has said that, good thought, good word, good deeds. And if you don't have it, and this Sapanto Menu and Gramenu is all a product of human mind, and we create bad thoughts and we create bad actions followed by that. So it's nothing extraterrestrial. It is what it is, a production. It is what we produce as humans on this earth. So we can combat that by our good behavior, good thoughts, and everybody is responsible for that on their own. And a lot of times we have to kind of like combat it for other people, because they don't realize that they have the power not to have evil thoughts or evil actions, because we are in charge of all that. So hopefully that's in another verse that we talk about. But when it comes to wealth, yes, we are supposed to gather enough wealth. Each person is different. Like, I don't need to be very, very rich monetarily. As long as I have enough, in my living life, that I can sustain a good life. It doesn't have to be elaborate. It doesn't have to be extravagant. It just has to sustain my needs to be a good person and to be able to live a comfortable life. Somebody else is not like me. Somebody else needs extra. They need to do a lot more. As long as they do it righteously, that's fine too. But the whole point of it is that Zarathustra's philosophy was that think about the material and the mind, both. Not just, you can't just be good, and just walk around and say I'm righteous, but you have nothing to show for it. You have a peasant life. You can't help anybody. You can't even help yourself. So there has to be a balance. And some other philosophies, some other ideologies always do tell you, just abandon the material world and just stick to the subconscious or stick to the spiritual and stick to what is going to happen after life. That's what we are different. Caleb, your hand is up.
Yeah, I was wanting to kind of jump off on one of the points that you said. I was thinking about kind of one of the, not the issues with wealth, but kind of, doing it the right way. Because, one thing is a lot of people get wealthy through then less than savory means, they lie or deceive, or they underpay employees or whatnot. But even more so, which I think is more important, if you're that sort of person, you wouldn't even be attracted to Zoroastrianism really, but is more so kind of what things in your society are you kind of accepting? For instance, let's say you get wealthy off of a certain supply chain, let's say selling shirts, and those shirts are made by slaves or borderline slaves in Bangladesh. Is that really I don't like the term righteous personally, but a righteous way to gain wealth? It's kind of one of those things where you have to look at the whole picture. And I've always noticed that every time you look at the whole picture, you always have to kind of just draw a line somewhere and be okay with what you can do personally, because sometimes it's more than what you can do. But I think it's worth noting, that a lot of people that really are beyond and above a certain level of wealth oftentimes are built off of people who can barely, even in America, who can barely afford rent in cities and whatnot. Yet they're far enough away from it that their hands are clean because it isn't an obvious thing that they're doing, but it's still kind of a product of their actions. So that's my input.
Thank you so much. And the whole thing about studying the Gathas, talking about the Gathas, discussing it, in my opinion, the reason that we are doing it is just awareness. None of us are perfect human beings. None of us can claim that we are Zartushtis walking every day. That is not the thing. The point is that as long as you're aware, as long as you let other people know that you're responsible for this life, for yourself and the people around you, like Purchista said, I choose my husband because I want to make my dad proud, and my family and my society and everything around me, because it's like a chain that everything is connected. So if we are aware of this ideology and we agree with it, then at least in everyday life, we may think about it. Not that we're going to be 100% effective or 100% right, but the point is we know about it and we can try to achieve that greatness. Jasmine, would you like to join us?
Hi, I just wanted to thank everybody just for the opportunity to be here, but it's my first time, so I will just listen to all the beautiful people. But thank you so much for having me. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. Has it Ben? Hi, Ben.
He's driving.
Sorry, I'm just getting back to my apartment. Oh, great discussion. I'm so much enjoying it.
Okay, I'm glad you do. So no problem. We'll come back to you on the second verse. The second verse that I want to talk about, 53.4, it's about choice. There is a Persian saying, most of you are not Persian, but I just want you to know about this. There's a Persian saying that says, a woman that is good, obedient, and righteous will make a man successful and happy. That's a Persian saying. And it's not very old, like I would say a few hundred years old. And everybody enjoyed it for a long time until people kind of like thought about that word obedient, which is also when people got married in America a long time ago, that's what they would say. Would you promise to be, obedient to your husband, all that. And right now it's not politically correct to say any of that. But again, think about 4,000 years ago and how relevant the things that are in the Gathas are. 4,000 years ago, equality was the cornerstone of this religion. Equality between man and woman, for the point of the fact that It wasn't even mentioned. They were never separated. None of the verses in the Gathas is about a man or a woman. It's always about both. So in any verse that Zarathustra is talking to the people and addressing them, he always says, every man and woman for yourself. There is absolutely no sexism, no separation of sexes based on anything. And that's interesting. That is another thing that if you walk this path, if you live a Zoroastrian life, we should grant that. We should practice that in life and not look at a man and say, oh, this guy is this is a man and he should be such and such and such. We should not have all those notions that men and women are not equal. Now, I am not dumb, so I know that absolutely we are not created equally. Men and women are totally different. We all know that, biologically, psychologically, physically, you name it. We have nothing in common, basically, as living, talking, walking humans. But equality comes in when there is the same opportunities given by sets of rules and society to both genders. That is equality. So when Zarathustra is talking to his daughter about getting married, he's talking to her as a person. He's not talking to her as a wife, as a woman, as a different gender. And that is he is presenting the same opportunities to her than when he would talk to a man or one of his sons. And that is the beauty of this verse, that equality is all over the Gathas. And anybody who reads this, I don't know about other scriptures. I have no idea how Genesis, the first chapter of the Bible, talks about men and women, and it's terrible because Adam and Eve, they are not equal. Adam is Adam, and Eve is just a subsection of the left ribs of Adam would produce Eve. So there is absolutely no equality. And Eve is the problem, and Eve has caused corruption to Adam and all that. But once again, when we read the Gathas, when we read the verse 53.4, it's all about equality. And the fact that, behind every good man is not a strong woman. They are separate. Everybody has to be good on their own. Everybody has to be strong and strive for the best on her own, man or woman. There is no difference. So to me, that makes my life different than somebody who was born a Christian or a Muslim or, anybody else. Because I always have been thinking there is no difference. There is no difference. There's a lot of things I can do that a man can't do and vice versa. But that has nothing to do with equality. That just has to do with biology. There's a lot of things that women are more advanced in than men, but that is biology. Nobody has tried to do that. This is how we are. So what we do with all that we've been given by creation is what counts. And on that note, who would like to go first? Expressing yourself as a man or a woman doesn't matter.
Or if you have any questions.
Any comments?
Can you repeat that quote again? That a good obedient woman makes a happy man.
Oh, in Persian? Can you speak Persian? Because it is, if you...
It doesn't translate well.
In Persian, for those of you who speak Persian, it says, Zani ni ke farman bare parsa konad marde faqir ra padishah. Which means, if you're a good, righteous, obedient woman, you can make a poor man wealthy and successful and happy.
You can turn him into a king, basically.
You can turn him into a king. Yeah. Instead of a pauper, they can be a king. And that's a very famous thing. And that's how the Persian culture, which descended from Zarathustra, changed the whole thing throughout thousands of years. It changed into the fact that women are should be obedient to their men, to their husband, to their father. Persian women didn't ever do that, not that I know of, but that's expected. And the marriage vows that long time ago, I saw it in the movies, American movies, they would say, do you promise to obey and honor and respect your husband? I remember that. And now they don't say it anymore, which is good. Total inequality. Comments? Caleb?
Hi.
Oh, Nilu.
Hi.
Caleb goes first. Go
I
ahead.
want to say I love this topic and I feel like it's so relevant because, for example, a lot of people look at issues that relate to like what happens to men or women as like separate, but they're never separate, they're whole, right? And it goes back to like common humanity principles. And the way I feel like you can really, like to your point about the 90-year-old woman and the story of children, like as children, if we don't have our fundamental rights, whether boy or girl, like how society will put constructs on us, our outcomes will always be limited, right? So when we minimize or try to create a construct of how we're obligated to each other rather than how we uplift each other individually, we can do more collectively, if that makes sense.
Yes.
Is what I'm reading from what's being said. And I think that's really hard because one, in like Western societies, there's so much hyper individualism. Where I understand Zoroastrianism is saying you as an individual do good, but you're doing good with the perspective that you represent the collective whole. But I think sometimes society keeps us so busy that we lose that perspective and that context becomes lost. I think it's interesting, some cultures in the world, I spoke to a friend who's a doctor and she did service work in India. And she was saying, for example, in other parts of the world, they talk about like being impoverished materially. Like, oh, India, they don't have enough infrastructure in certain areas and they're so impoverished. But for example, in parts of India, they say, oh, it's actually, we may seem materially impoverished, but we're not immaterially impoverished. So if our neighbor is sick, if our family member is sick, we will collectively quickly help each other, versus in other societies, they don't. And that like theme is what's standing out to me. Like this idea of what we can do together for the greater goal of like healing and building.
Nicely said. Thank you so much. I really appreciate that. Yes, collectively, it's always collectively as a team that we can achieve something. It doesn't matter if you're a man or a woman. It's like Purchista, that Zarathustra's youngest daughter, says on here, you know, the translation is I, Purchista. So she is the person who is declaring this. She is not the daughter of Zarathustra. She is not the daughter of the family. She is not a sister of anybody. She is not going to be a wife of anybody. She is I, Purchista. And that means that she feels like she is as equal as anybody that is observing this marriage, because she has the power. She has the power to choose a person to love. And she says that. And once again, 4,000 years ago, they believed in equality. It matters. History matters sometimes, because you go and see that we are all human. They used to be human. I mean, it doesn't matter. This is how it's supposed to be. And it worked. Back then, that nation became great, and it worked because men and women were working side by side. In old Persia, we had queens that were stronger than a lot of kings that came to being, because they were recognized as an individual equally strong and productive for the job that they were doing.
And it is interesting also that she identifies herself first and foremost as a righteous woman. More than any other characteristics, she thinks that's the most important thing about her, is to be righteous.
Yeah, and if everybody did that, all of us, if we thought that we can do the right thing all the time, this would be a better society, I am sure. So anybody has any other comments about this verse?
Yeah, I was wanting to jump off what Nilu was saying. Is you can't quite see it in some of these translations, but what Porchisa is saying here is she's saying that like her act of choosing this person would provide for or provide to the the husband, the father, and then the whole community. As it says, they're a righteous woman to the righteous, and those other things. I'm not going to get into some of the extreme discussion on that third line, but overall, I think it kind of shows what Nilo was saying is that, even though she's choosing this person for herself, and like Zarathustra says, I think in the previous stanza that, consult with your intellect and take action with your intuition. She's saying that not only she's chosen him for herself, but she's also chosen him so she can also be a better person to the community, which I think is kind of an important thing because we're not just individuals. That's kind of the whole point of good words is so that we can collectively come closer to better good thoughts and deeds. So that's kind of my 2 cents.
Thank you. Having the choice, being told that you have the choice and you have to make choices is very difficult. However, I think it's very empowering. When you know at a young age that you have the choice and you're not mandated to do anything because God said so, in this ideology, you are in charge of your own life and your own choices. If you raise a child like that, like we were raised, we were never told that we have no choice and we are just like, servants to God. We have to do everything because God said so. None of that was in our upbringing. So it's very liberating and it's very empowering because you are it. You are convinced throughout your 15, 16, 18 years of life before you become an adult, that, okay, so it's on me. Whatever choices I make, the result, I am in charge of that. I did that. A lot of bad choices are made, but you can't blame anybody. You can't blame anything because you have the power to be better. You have the power to become better, to make better choices. So trial and error, you learn from your mistakes. All of that is true. And this verse is in the same way because I don't know how old she was, maybe Caleb, history buff, he knows how old Purchisa was when she was getting married. I don't know what they did at that time in the history, but it's a choice. You are allowed to pick your life partner. That's pretty big. If it works out good for you, you made the right choice. You actually were, you did something good with your mind and you thought about the future and you thought about all the consequences of your choices. If it didn't work, you learn from it. So you can't blame anybody, but all these marriages to this date that are chosen for you, all the, the mixing and the matching, that this girl and this boy from the time that they're born, they're going to get married. Cousins marriage is made in heaven. This is another saying that Persians used to have, which is a terrible saying because cousins should not get married because of genetics and all that. However, once again, it's about the choice. This shows you that a girl had a choice 4,000 years ago to pick a life partner. And that is pretty big. And we should learn from that. And we should be proud of the fact that we are given that opportunity in this ideology, not to go to hell if we make a choice, not to be damned, not to be considered a sinner. All of that is very liberating. So hopefully we make good choices. Hopefully we learn and then become better and become more advanced as humans and do righteous acts and think about our mental and material wellness. Anybody has any opinions, any things to add to the discussion?
So thank you for this. I really like the sort of this idea of celebration of the good choice. And it's got me thinking about the current culture that we live in, let's say in US and Europe, and like the profound contradictions that are there. And there's on one side, there's this obsession with gender equality that goes so far as denying some of these differences that you started with, and you know, and on the other side, you know, there's sort of if you look at so in that regard, even though, you know, there's some extreme positions that don't really make sense, it seems to be very compatible with Zoroastrianism. And I'm actually, so something I think a lot about is how is it that Zoroastrianism seems to touch on topics that are so relevant and emerging today in how society is changing. So gender equality is an example. You know, people talk more and more about vegetarianism, and the whole discussion around individualism as well is like a big important thing. And I'm sort of, it's the way I think about it, it's almost like if there's like a Zoroastrian consciousness that through the ages kind of comes about in society without anybody being fully conscious of, because nobody has ever heard about Zarathustra or Zoroastrianism. So that's kind of strange to me. And at the same time, there's like this profound contradiction, because a lot of the media that we see, if you look at how women are portrayed in, I don't know, like, you know, music video clip, and I know I sound like, you know, an old conservative, yeah, but it's true that if you look at the music that sells the most, if you turn on the TV, or if you look at commercials, even the way it's portrayed, you know, there's it's almost, and you know, sorry, I'm being a bit long, but there's also something I was wondering about, because with the freedom of choice and individualism, there also comes a lot of difficulties and complexities. And you know, it used to be that you would do the job that your parents were doing, and today you have the possibility to do whatever job you want. And I think for a lot of people, it creates a lot of anxiety and confusion and loss of sense of identity. And I think that's because we have the freedom and the choice, and it's being emphasized, but we're missing the doing good part of things that's not fully conscious of. So it's like, you know, yes, you're free, but use that freedom in a way that you create positive change in the world. And I think like the second part is really what's missing in our culture. Sorry, that was a bit long, but it just got me thinking about this, you know, Zoroastrian in the current age.
No, you're right. You're absolutely right. This freedom of choice brings a lot of problems, because a lot of people think that making a choice, I am free to make a choice, but that's not what these verses say. It has to be a good choice. And by good I mean the right choice. Sometimes the choices that we make, like I always tell the students in our class, that children have no business making choices. They don't know enough. They are not mature enough. Those enzymes in the brain have not developed. The synapses are not there yet. So you can't tell a 10-year-old, make a decision. You can, you know, freedom of choice. It's not like that. Freedom of choice is for those who actually know what they're choosing, who actually have the background, who actually have learned stuff. It has to be informed choices. It is not just the fact that the opportunity is there to make choices, yes, but then that is not for everyone. A lot of people who have mental diseases, they can't make choices. They are not capable. So they should not be allowed to make choices. So the fact that, yes, we have to practice freedom of choice and let people who can, who are able, who are capable, who are at the par level of their intelligence to make choices, that's what it means. So Zarathustra always said, you know, you need to learn, wisdom. That is always the precursor to all these choices. Without the wisdom and the knowledge, no, nobody should be allowed to make any choices. And that's the problem with our society. We take a 5-year-old to McDonald's and tell him, how would you like your hamburger? How does that child know? Do you want French fries? Do you want ketchup? I've seen it. And the kid is just running around. They don't know. They don't know. So the question shouldn't be asked from a 5-year-old who's looking at all kinds of pictures on McDonald's wall and choosing. They cannot choose. So freedom of choice comes with a lot of responsibilities. And one day, hopefully, the society understands that, and they can let people make a choice if they're capable of doing so. That is my opinion, of course. Tim, is your hand up?
Yes, you hit the nail on the head when you were mentioning the adolescents having choices and making decisions in society, and basically in a nutshell, to give you some information, I work in a mental health facility, and I see society going in the wrong direction. And in a nutshell, I just wanted to make that comment. And if we could straighten up that part of it, it might put us in the right direction in the health of society as I see it. I've seen my town kind of go downhill as far as the drugs and mental illness, and I just wanted to make that comment. You nailed it. I think it's in the back of everyone's mind right now, the drugs and the mental illness that's going on in society.
That is correct.
And unfortunately, I live out here in the Inland Empire where it's really, really, really prominent.
Yeah.
And I just wanted to make that comment, but you kind of stirred the pot there, so I had to comment.
Thank you. Mark, would you like to say something?
Yeah, it's in regards to the I guess freedom of choice and freedom as it is. And my family, I'm a first generation immigrant. My family moved here from the former USSR, and the community culture there is very different, and from the United States. And my grandparents always told me that freedom does not mean that you have the right to do whatever you want. It means that you should have the discipline to do what's right.
Correct. Very good. Nicely put.
And to kind of wrap this up, it's that I feel like a lot of people, especially like my peers that I've seen that are my age, are not setting their children up to make good decisions as they grow up. They're trying to tell them what to do rather than, like, there is a time as a parent where, okay, you're old enough, you can ask questions, you know what you like to eat. How can I, or such like that? Let's enable you to make good decisions for when you get older. So right now we learn, but I'm going to put the bumpers on so you're not going to crash into the wall or anything. You're going to learn now, but you're still going to make mistakes when you're older. So I just think it's important to guide people, to let them make their own mistakes, as long as they are intelligent enough or developed enough or old enough to learn from those mistakes. Because you just let people fail a bunch and you don't try to teach them, you're failing them.
Correct. That's part of it. I'm going to finish this. Thank you all for sharing, being here with us. But one example that I want to say, and I always thought about it very strongly, is that in America, the age of driving is 16. And in my opinion, as a mother, when my daughter turned 16 a long time ago, was that they are doing it on purpose in America versus the rest of this universe because of the money that insurance companies gain, because of cars that are sold, because of all the things that has monetary value that is part of the fact that 16-year-olds are given these cars to drive around when they are adolescents, when they don't have emotional stability, they're not mature enough, they cannot make wise decisions. There's a lot of things they do at that age, and to give them a car to drive, I thought always, and to this day, was a mistake. And when I would tell it to everybody, American friends of mine, and they say, no, they have to do it. It's freedom of choice. We choose to do that so they can go to the school themselves, and it's less stress on the parents. There's a lot of wrong reasons for kids to drive at 16. So that was my opinion about too soon, too fast, not enough experience, not enough maturity. Freedom of choice is excellent, an amazing idea, but it's at the right time, for the right reason, at the right place. So if everybody's okay with all the questions and answers we had. Oh, Mark's hand is up. Yes, very quickly.
No, his hand is up from before.
Oh.
I
is it-
apologize. I never put it down. That's my
Okay,
mistake.
that's okay. Tim, is your hand new or old?
No, it's-
Well, I'll go ahead and comment really quick. Fariba, will you send me that link to the chat again? I screwed it up.
okay.
Sorry.
That's okay.
No problem.
Thank you, everybody,
All
for
right.
sharing. We really enjoyed having you. It is just a one-on-one conversation, and it's just like very casual. But the point of it is that Gatha's is not, something extraterrestrial. It is an opinion of a man who was brilliant, and it is very, very relevant this day. And that's why we honor it, and that's why we talk about it, and hopefully we can live it every day because it makes sense, it's logical, it's righteous. Thank you very much, and you all have a
Thank
good day.
you. Have a great
Thank you.
Thanksgiving, everyone.
you.
Until next time.
Thank you so much. It was a pleasure. Hope to see you guys again. Great stuff.
Thank you.
Thank
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 you.
you. It was really good.
Bye-bye.
Thanks. Bye bye.